And now, here is Coretta MacDonald, Member of Parliament and host of Advancing the Cause.
You're on it. Use up your mic. Unmute your mic, go. You have to unmute your mic, ma'am.
Okay. Good. You bring in Jermain on my signal after do the introduction.
Go, you're live. You can go now, Annette, you're live.
Okay. A pleasant Wednesday evening. Welcome to yet another program of Advancing the Cause. I will be your host for tonight's program in the absence of my colleague, sister and friend, the Honorable Coretta MacDonald, who usually hosts this program. So it is Wednesday, December 7th, 2022, and allow me to take this opportunity in welcoming you to yet another program of Advancing the Cause. That is one, and two, to express greetings to those of you who might be celebrating a special day, whether it's a birth anniversary, whether it's the birth of a newborn baby today, whether it's your wedding anniversary, happy anniversaries or special greetings. That also being said, I also want to sympathize with those of you who might have lost a loved one and is celebrating another year of their death anniversary. May their souls continue to rest in peace and rise in perfect and rise in glory. Outside of that, I know that come Saturday, December. Why am I saying October? October seems to be a special month in my mouth, but we're 2 months past October. But come Saturday, December 10th, 2022, I know that over 3,000 young people will be graduating at the university's convocation ceremony. So on behalf of the host of this program and all of us in the APNU AFC, we want to wish all of you a big congratulations. And as you grace the stage come Saturday, just remember the hard work over the 2 years, over the 3 years, over the 4 years, they have finally paid off. So once again, a big congratulations to you. Well, on tonight's program, I should be having 2 guests in studio with me. I know that one is backstage. He is no stranger to us all. He's a teacher by profession. He's a member of parliament representing his constituents there in Upper Demerara, Upper Berbice region, and we know it commonly known as region number 10. So on tonight's program, we will be discussing, the corruption that continues to exist in the People's Progressive Party regime, and also the other guest that will be joining us will be the Honorable David Patterson, member of parliament and who has responsibility for the energy sector. So I will now invite the Honorable Jermain Figueira, Member of Parliament, so that we can have our discussion. Welcome, Jermain. A pleasant evening to you. Welcome to yet another program of Advancing the Cause. I can't hear you, Jermain.
Yes, Jose, thank you very much for inviting me to the program Advancing the Cause.
Yes.
I want to join with you, congratulating all of the students who will be graduating from the University of Ghana.
Yes.
Milestone in their life, and I think it should be celebrated. Additionally, I would like to extend congratulations to the athletes, region number 10, teachers, players, all these coaches, and everyone athletes gaining the sixth consecutive national championship. Region number 10 is a region I would always say is the talent basket of Guyana, and
Yes.
records that we hold is testimony to that fact. No other region has won the national track and field championship for 19 years.
Wow.
And won it 6 consecutive years as region number 10. And we have done that with limited resources. This is raw talent, and much more can be achieved, much more can be discovered if the facilities
Yes.
are made available, if the opportunities are made available. And this is where the minister has shown his distinction in failing to deliver to the young people of this country. Minister
Yes.
responsibility for youth sports and culture.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Jermain. And I also would like to join with you in congratulating all the athletes, all the, I think they said it's about 1,500 young people who participated, who were able to showcase their talents in cycling, swimming, I think, we call it again, cycling, swimming, and track and field. So a
Yes.
big congratulations to them and to your region, the region which you represent. A big congratulations. Perhaps, Jermain, you will need to let your listeners or your viewers and those athletes who might be tuned in on today's program to share with them what is it that Linden has so special that 19 years they have been 19 consecutive years they have been winning the national school championship, man. So perhaps you can let your viewers know what is so special, what y'all doing down there, man, that the other regions ain't doing.
So, okay, just a little correction. We have won it 19 times,
Oh,
but
19
past
times.
6 years we won it consecutively. Linden
Okay.
is a gifted community. We have an abundance of talent here in the region, and it is raw talent on display there. And if you understand with regards to the preparation for that track and field event, there was no facility made available.
Yes.
The sports club, as you're aware, is in a deplorable state. The Bayrock facility, where most of the athletes usually go and train, is still under construction. Since 2018, it is not yet completed. And it just shows that Linden is a very talented community. It rises above all of the odds and still perform at its peak. And if more facilities are made available, if the necessary experienced coaches are made available, if um, the equipment and the proper nutrition and all that is required for an athlete um, to reach his apex in performing, what more can be achieved? Because if we are able to do this without those necessary facilities, without the necessary gears and such like. And we are able to show Guyana and the world that we are
Yes.
capable, we have what it takes to compete at the international level. And I believe it is time that level of investment is put at the school level, at the university level, so that Guyanese can really understand that sports is beyond just participating in an event.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
right now we're witnessing the power and the might of sports with regards to the
Yes.
FIFA World Cup. The world
Mm-hmm.
is tuned in to what is going on at in Qatar right now. A lot
Yes.
of human rights issues are being raised. That is the platform that sports allows a country to allows so many messages to be sent. So I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
a lot of investment needs to be invested in our young people, and Guyana can be known also as the spot like Jamaica, where we
Yes.
present to the world elite athletes. And it's
Mm-hmm.
disheartening. I was very flabbergasted by the fact learning that the minister with responsibility for youth and sport, inclusive of the minister of education, no senior functionary official was present to the
Mm-hmm.
to hand over the winning trophies to the regional athletes who would have performed exceedingly well. And it is
Wow.
testament to the non-interest this minister has with regards to his portfolio, a portfolio that I believe is the most important portfolio of all of the ministries in the country, in the
Mm-hmm.
government, because
Mm-hmm.
this is where the youth, the future of Guyana rests. And we
Yes.
have the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture who has shown a blatant disregard for his portfolio. And by just showing up, your one's presence is important. It sends a very
Exactly.
strong message to the young people, to the athletes, that you care, that you're
Mm-hmm.
concerned about their progression and what potential that they can showcase if those opportunities are made available. The fact that
Mm-hmm.
he was a no-show brings the full sum of his disregard for the responsibility that he holds to this nation, that he holds to the young people of this country. And
Mm-hmm.
it is very disappointing. I mean, I am equally disappointed that the Minister of Education, who I believe, um, and with our experience dealing with young people for a number of years as the former Minister of Education and present Minister of Education, one would have expected her, to show her presence and be
Yeah.
there. Even the newly appointed HOD, who became the CEO of the Ministry of Education, the Chief Education Officer, a former head of department, is now the Chief Education Officer. He of himself denied a golden opportunity that was presented to him to make his debut as a
Yes.
caring chief
Chief
education
exec.
officer to the welfare
Mm-hmm.
of the nation's children. He too was a no-show. So it's very troublesome. It's very worrying that
Mm-hmm.
key officials with responsibility for the nation's youth, the future of this country, didn't see the importance of attending a milestone event for these young people
Yeah.
who are very excited, very elated with regards to their achievement, and it's totally disappointing.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Jermaine, for that update, and and you would have expressed your dissatisfaction of those persons who failed to show up to give our young people some sort of encouragement. Let them know that look, they feel belonging. They have the officials there from the ministry. They have key interest in this thing called sports. But I was also made to understand, German, I don't know if you're aware, that the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, he too was a no-show. And on program last evening with the General Secretary of the Teachers Union, Honorable Coretta MacDonald, she reported that usually the head of state would normally grace his or her presence to at least give some comforting some words of encouragement to the athletes. And in this case here, President Ali was a no-show. So I don't know if you want to share your view of his non-presence on the first day or during the period of the National School Championship celebrations.
Well, one would want to accept that a president's responsibility requires his presence at a multitude of functions, and that is why they have ministers. He would have entrusted his ministers to act when he cannot make certain attendance. And that is why I'm saying, I mean, yes, the president, if he was available, should have shown himself. But the fact of the matter is, he has a minister. He has entrusted a minister with responsibility for youth, sports, and culture. He has entrusted a minister with responsibility for education in this country. And this activity was a twofold activity because it was the nation's school track and field athletics championship. It means the Ministry of Education had a pivotal role to play, and equally
Yes.
so, the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture had an equally important role to play. So one can provide probably a plausible excuse for the president not showing, but it would have been good if the head of state could have availed himself to attend,
Yes.
even if it was just the opening or the ending of the ceremony. But we cannot allow the responsibility of those subject ministers to escape and basically bring the president into this conversation. The president gave these two people the responsibility to act, and they would have failed to act. And
Yeah.
equally, the minister in particular of youth, sports, and culture. I mean, this is a guy who I believe. I mean, if we are to look seriously at the previous ministers of youth, sports, and culture, as far back as Gail Teixeira, Frank Anthony, Nicolette Henry, Dr. Norton. I mean, I'm an honest guy, and if I'm to make a good assessment of their performance, I'm dissatisfied. But I had
Yes.
optimism, I had hope, given the fact that when the announcement was made that Ramson would have become the minister with responsibility for youth, sports, and culture. I mean, like any other young person, because a lot of people are of the view that the persons who held those portfolio, they're not an interest. They don't understand young people. So the fact that a young person was given this portfolio, the natural conclusion is, hey, we finally get somebody who understand young people, who understand the importance of youth, the importance of culture, the importance of sport to young people. But it is so evident from the performance of this minister. We had since 2020 to do evaluation of the minister, and even from the very budget debate, you would have seen the minister lacks vision, he lacks purpose, he lacks passion with regards to executing the mandate that has been bestowed on him. He in the debates, one would assume that he is a GCOM worker. All he speaks about is election, election, election. So he seldomly gives a vision, an outlook of where he wants to see sports and how it will develop within a time frame period, a phase by phase developmental plan for sports, for culture in this
Yes.
country. This is a
Yes.
minister who doesn't understand the importance of having a brand, a Guyanese brand. Imagine Mushroom Money, the country's most premier cultural event, is less than 3 months away in February. They had a soft launch. Now, this is the premier event, cultural event. This is Guyana's carnival. And I understand that the government apparently, based on you observing, seems to have a greater interest in promoting carnival rather
Yes.
than matrimony.
Matrimony. Mm-hmm.
This is concerning, and it should be of concern to all Guyanese that here is your premier cultural event, and it is not
Mm-hmm.
given the attention that is required from the Ministry of Culture, Youth, and Sport. It had a soft launch of which the very minister was absent. No senior government functionary was present at the soft launch of Mashramani, the country's most premier cultural event.
Yes.
Was a
Yes.
no-show. So one has to question, what is the vision of this minister and by extension his government with regards to promoting the country's most premier national event? And the designers are complaining because they aren't benefiting from
Mm-hmm.
their trade of designing costumes and such like. I mean, we outsourcing all of this, so it's a dying art of making costumes in Ghana. Who's gonna
Yeah.
pass on the legacy of designing to our future generation? You know,
Yeah.
where are the talent in music being discovered with the promotion of calypso, soca? These are songs that should have already been playing on the airwaves right now as we speak.
Exact.
Nothing is going
Exactly.
on. The,
But
the minister's concerned with stinking dirty.
yes, but Jeremy, even though you would have touched on the culture and matrimony, the soft launch to matrimony, I recall back in the days, at least by September, early October, you would notice or publications in the print media, even electronically, inviting interested persons to submit possible themes that can be used for the matrimony celebration. And these are being done by way of competition, so the best team will be used, and persons are usually awarded for their efforts, even with logo. In this instance, for March 2023, though you had the soft launch, to date, I am oblivious, I don't know if you are too, that there is no team for Matrimony 2023. That's one. Two, at any launch of the Matrimony, you would have, probably, let's call it exhibits of costumes on display at the launch. That was a no show. That wasn't. I didn't see that at all. So indeed, all I will have to agree with you. It clearly shows that the minister who heads that ministry lacks one vision, he lacks competence, and perhaps he is still floating. And you're right, because even in the National Assembly, every budget speech or every other speech other than budget, whenever he stands to speak, 3 minutes he will talk about culture, youth, and sport. And the remaining minutes into his presentation, he bashes the coalition. He bashes the coalition. He acts out at us. So we, as members of parliament, even the general public, we don't understand which direction this ministry is going. But Jermaine, I want to circle back to the school's championship celebrations. And I know for a fact that the Ministry of Education, their budget for 2022 was 74.4 billion Guyana dollars. 74.4 billion Guyana dollars. Last evening, it was quite surprising to the ear to hear that the athletes were asked to hand over their apparels, all the clothing that were made available to them. They were told to hand them back. I was even told that at previous school championships celebrations, these athletes would normally, take their clothing as a form of a souvenir, that they would recall that, well, look, they were able to participate at the 59th session of the school championship. But in this case, for 2022, these athletes were asked to hand back all of their apparel. What do you say to this, Jermaine?
It is most disappointing to hear. Every national athlete who were
Mm-hmm.
friends of mine while I was a student, just to go to represent the region and be clothed in the, because our region is clothed in gold and black. Just to
Okay.
have that um, clothing after matrimony was a
After school.
braggadocious um, a braggadocious thing for those athletes. Just to say I would have attended,
Mm-hmm.
and other athletes aspire to wear the black and yellow, the black and gold,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
that is a memorabilia for those athletes. They have something to
Yes.
show that, listen, I would have attended and represented my region with our colors. So it gives them a somewhat of a hype or bragging rights throughout the year of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
their school until the nationals comes again. And it is disappointing that in this oil rich economy, we are asking students to come to represent their regions. And when they would have done so, given of their best, the ministry is asking them to give back the clothing. That is
Mm-hmm.
unacceptable. It is uncaring. And we have seen at the last budget, at the last parliament, where the government would have been asking for supplemental. We have ministries, for example, the Ministry of Public Infrastructure,
I was
failed
coming to
to
that, Jermaine.
failed
I
to
was coming to that.
spend
Mm-hmm.
failed to spend more than 55% of their budgetary allocation on capital works. And it is evident that there is money is available, but the incompetence of some of the ministers, they are unable to spend what was given to them. But yet still here we have money spent on clothing, something so minuscule to our nation's children. You're taking it back from them after they would
Mm-hmm.
have given their best in performing for this country. Because national track and field athletics competition is the ground where we
Ground.
spot
Mm-hmm.
talent and
Mm-hmm.
identify prospects that we can nurture to represent Ghana on an international platform. That is where we should be scouting for the nation's next Olympian athlete. But this
Mm-hmm.
is what we're doing to them,
Well,
breaking their morale by
yeah.
accepting
Well,
back clothing.
yeah. Well, Jermaine, my first reaction after hearing such, after hearing such, Jermaine, is that, well, look, come 2023, the ministry will indeed budget for clothing for athletes. But in this case, if you're asking the athletes to hand back these clothing for 2022, I believe that these very clothing will be used come 2023. So therefore, the monies that will be budgeted for clothing for national schools athletic championship, the money will be siphoned off in some other direction. You understand me? So it will not go to where it has to go, because it will go into somebody's pocket. But we can move off from there, Jermaine, and we
Yeah, but
can
additionally, before you go, I mean, another important issue with regards to that championship, there was an allegation of a coach involved in raping one of the athletes.
Oh
I don't know
yes,
the
yes.
legitimacy of those claims, but it is
Mm-hmm.
concerning. I had not read or seen any comment coming out from the ministry
Mm-hmm.
regards to that incident would have transpired. And it brings into to focus the ministry's failure in one, vetting coaches, because some people who were former athletes, they had no training to become a coach and just interested in athletics, and they avail their time to go out and work with young people, which is good, and we commend some of those people who do that. But it doesn't negate the fact that if we are entrusting adults with our children, some form of vetting should be done, so that the confidence that parents would have in whoever's looking out for the welfare of their kids when they go to practice. We want to have these um, bad things happening to our children. We put them in harm's way or in danger. So I would wish if the ministry would refocus its direction, and ensure that they provide some form of training, some form of certification to these coaches who are involved in our training our athletes, and inform and ensure that there's police clearance of these character references are done, to ensure that we have the best people looking out and dealing with our young people. So because these are
Yes.
very important matters that shouldn't go under the carpet like that. It has to be all of the exposure, so that can be a deterrent from person who may have those thoughts
Yes.
dealing with
All
our
right.
young.
Yes. Thank you very much, Jermaine. And it is very much unfortunate with what would have happened to that young school child. And I trust that, once the proper investigation is done, that the parents receive justice. And I believe too, when we as parents send out our children, um, there is need for perhaps this whole security needs to be enhanced. That's one. Two, we got to find out who will be, whose care our children will be under, and all manner of things. So parents too, we got our role to play. But when you entrust your kids into the hands of people, you do it with the utmost respect of trust. But as I said before, I trust that the thorough investigation would reveal, and whomever was responsible be dealt with. I notice David logged in. Operator, is he in? Good. Good evening, David. Welcome to Advancing the Cause. I'm sitting in for my colleague, the Honorable Coretta McDonald, who's unavailable. So at tonight's discussion, we're actually discussing where the monies are going. So I don't know if you want to, give any
Good
opening
evening,
remarks.
Annette, and good evening,
Yes.
Jermaine. Good evening to
Amen.
all your viewers and listeners across the country. Start off by saying, well, season greetings to everyone. I don't know how productive Christmas will be with only 8%, but we have to start somewhere. Yes, Annette and German, as you know, we're noting something that is going on with this government here, and it's quite worrying in the sense that there's a lot of money being had. A lot of people sit down and they complain about the oil deal that was signed in 2016, but that same oil deal allowed the government to have over $1 billion in their bank accounts right now. This year alone, they took out $607 million from our solvent wealth fund, from the natural resources fund. But what we're finding out now, Jermaine and Annette, is that it's little boys with toys. They have all this money. They don't know what to do with it. So there's feeding at the trough. They just have the money there. The procurement laws are being flouted. And you could remember, thought that to be a
Yeah.
contractor, you must have to go through a process. You must have some experience. You must,
Exactly.
etc. Edgel was quite happy to get up at Parliament and say that they have 942 new
Contractors.
contractors, and persons that were weeders are now contractors of building roads and those things like that. And the general public, and we're glad for persons to be given the opportunity, but we have to wonder what's the end product you're going to be having, because obviously we know now that the hard working staff of the Ministry of Infrastructure and Public Work, they're stretched. they can't monitor it. I mean, the reasons why you have experienced people is that you're hoping that everyone has an engineer or a foreman with qualifications
Yes,
who knows what's going on and those things like that.
exactly.
So while they're boasting about all these things that they're doing, we have to wonder what the end product will be. But we know the PPP, they've always been. You could remember at Jermain, what we used to call election roads,
Yes.
whereby they fix and they do a road, and 6 months later it will break up. So that's where we are at the moment. And what's even worse, and I wanted to say something that I mentioned it today, and I mentioned in Parliament, and Jermain, you were there, and it's unfortunate you're not there. Hopefully you'll be back with us shortly. But I repeatedly asked Ejel, how is he going to spend this money? Because he haven't spent a cent. He's only
Yes.
spent 50%. I mean, I was told 51% is even too generous. But he hasn't spent. He got $88 billion. $88 billion. Folks, and he hasn't spent a cent. He only spent half of it, and yet he comes for another
18 billion.
$18 billion. You know what I mean? So, and that's ripe for corruption. You know, Annette, you know what's going to happen. They're going to
Yes.
give a man a contract for $500 million to read a road. And say, and then, you know what I mean, just read a little stretch of road and say, oh, well, that's how I spent it, you know what I mean? And that is really what's going to be happening with that $18 billion plus the 51, the 43 that they haven't spent as yet. So all I can say is we have to be vigilant. I mean, the PVP are back again, the boys are back again, you know what I mean? The sticky fingers, the feeding of the troughs, friends, families, and favorites, just getting richer, while us, the normal folks in the country, are getting more impoverished, and they're all they can give us is a mere of hard public service, a mere 8%, which we don't even know if it's tax free or not. So those are my opening comments, and
Thank you very much, David. David, though I wasn't physically there on Monday, I was actually following the proceedings via the social media, or the Facebook of the Parliament office. And I was quite disturbed. I was quite upset to hear some of the responses given by ministers of the government. When questions were posed from my colleagues, I recall, I think it was Mustafa, the Minister of Agriculture, when is either Ramjatan or Jermain, who would have asked the question on Gaisuku, concerning the I think it's 3 billion they came for drainage and irrigation, and they were asked. No, he was asked rather. What criterion was used, who were the contractors, and all manner of thing. And the response that he gave was, go to the website of the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board. There you'll find everything. And you know, David, that when you log in on the website, it is not useful. It is not helping us. So perhaps, David, I don't know if yourself or Jermain would want to share your concern regarding how contracts are being handled at the national level under this administration.
well, listen to me. In particular to Minister Mustafa, there's been a persistent rumor, and I could say it here, and I mean that some of his family members are benefiting from contracts in under the NDIA and under his ministry. So that is the reason, not maybe, that is the reasons why he would find he doesn't want to give the information. I think, I mean, even the speaker said, thought that that's where he's supposed to, when you're in Parliament, you're supposed to provide the information.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, he did not. But it's not only him; it's all of them. You know what I mean? Jermain, you could remember we were asking they came for $1.7 billion for both sides for electricity.
For electricity, yeah.
We we're asking, and then of course another 947 million for Linden. And they said to us, all of that money is just for fuel. So both sides has gotten now $3 billion already for the year. And of course, and we're glad at all that there's no increases. We're glad at all that the power remains in Region 10. But what you're supposed to be doing, and then of course, and all the Madi and all those other places got money just for fuel. They're not doing anything to improve the electricity system. They're just paying both sides. They're not doing anything to expand the network and the coverage and those things like that. All they're doing is just paying for fuel in Georgetown and those things like that. And us as city, they're saying that to keep the prices down, which we love. But the service, you're paying all this money, the service that we're getting out to these utilities is just poor. You know what I mean? In my office, I got blackout in Georgetown 3 times today only. But we give JPL $6 billion on Monday. So you know what I mean, and he made statements such as, of course their default statement, GPL is owed money and those things like that. But the GPL is just like, guys, look up, you're making a loss, you know what I mean, do something about it. You know what I mean, change your habit, but they're giving money to these companies and they're not improving their service. They're hiding behind the increase of cost of living, which we're glad and we're grateful that you're absorbing some of the cost. But come on, we supposed to be little Dubai of the Caribbean and those things like that. I mean, at least you got to do is improve this service that you're giving to the people. Nothing in it, you know what I mean? Everything that they do are just, and their supporters, I don't know, seem to like it. They just announce massive big projects, you know what I mean? They announced they're building the Harbor Bridge, you know what I mean? Not a nail has been done. Not a single thing has been done with the Harbor Bridge, you know what I mean? They announced that they're building this road, they're building a new road, they moved squatters off upon Trench Dam. Nothing has been done. And then you ask why? Why? I mean, what is the use of it? You have several more pressing issues. I mean, they did over the embankment, paved all the entire embankment, largest car park in the country. Because all that happens there is people park their cars there during the day. You know what I mean? They haven't even, and Jermain, you know that, I mean, you have all this money, fix some community grounds in some depressed areas, you know what I mean? Provide it, fix the ground perfect instead of going and do these things so that communities can benefit, you know what I mean? Free education. That $18 billion Edgeo got, they couldn't spend, could have paid for university education next year. Everybody go free, and we could have given back the people that have paid this year the money. But they don't do that. Why they don't do that? Because it benefits everybody, and when it benefits everybody, it benefits our supporters, even their supporters, but they prefer to even keep their supporters down, right? Because they want to ensure that our supporters doesn't have any benefits whatsoever. The money that they came for $48 billion. I mean, there was nothing there in there for Ministry of Education.
No.
Nothing there for Ministry of Education. You know what I mean? There's nothing there to alleviate. People still have to be paying for school books, paying fees, and all these things like that. You have $48 billion. Give it to where it's needed. There's nothing there. I mean, Jermain, you asked about several questions about the Linden Hospital. CT scan. I mean, you could have bought about, I don't know, probably 100 CT scanners with that $48 billion. Up to now, he says, we're considering it and it may come in 2023 or it may come in some other future time. Have the money now, use the money for the entire country rather than the friends, families, and favorites.
Exactly. Jermain, you want to come in here? I'm not hearing you, Jermain.
You have to unmute, Jermain. You have to unmute.
Unmute, Jermain.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
So what was equally concerning for me is when the questions were posed, it's not only the refusal of the ministers to answer the question, but their suggestion that one, it is in the public domain, it's in the media.
Yes.
The parliament is the
sole authority.
Sole authority for representatives of the people to ask questions concerning the interest of the people, and whoever is responsible ought to provide the house with those information. You cannot say to a elected official, a member of parliament who's asking you a question, that go and read the newspaper, go and read Kaichur News and get the information because it's in the public domain. These elected officials in the government fail to realize that they have a responsibility to be accountable to the people's money, to be accountable to every citizen of this country. So when questions are asked concerning their welfare, you have a duty to answer. I was stunned by the prime minister of this country's response when member Patterson was asking him several questions. He's saying this public knowledge is in the public domain. We want us to go and read Kaichur News. Everyone in Guyana knows a lot of these news agencies. A lot of times they don't carry accurate information. They don't do no analysis sometimes. So we have to ask the people we have given the monies for them, who are the custodian of these monies. What is it that you're doing with the people's money? And you have to answer. You can't tell us go and read it whether in the public domain or go and check on some website. I mean, it's the arrogance of some of these ministers is appalling.
Exactly. And colleagues, you would recall that any agreement or agreements signed, whether by the Minister of Finance on behalf of the government, it would normally be laid in the National Assembly so that we can know exactly whether it's a loan, whether it's a grant, what it's going towards, and all kind of thing. What was surprising at Monday's sitting, the government signed a $750 million for carbon credits with this one of these oil giant companies. And I expected that come Monday, this agreement would have been signed, would have been laid in the National Assembly. I heard it might have been either you, David, or Kemraj, who would have asked, right, for where is the agreement? And Vikram Bharat barefacedly said, oh, it's already in the public domain. But I don't know where in the public domain I can find the agreement signed between the government of Guyana and the Hess Corporation. So, colleagues, I don't know what's your reaction on what was said in the National Assembly on
Well,
Monday.
listen to me. That's it. That follows a pattern. You can recall that when we were under our administration, there was always a cry releases, and we released all the contracts, even though some of them had confidentiality clauses in them. We released that. So we asked for this $750 million because they took the money and they paid a company called Arch 3 or something like that.
Yes.
They came for $306 million to pay them. And they said that they signed a deal with Hess, and it's in the public domain. No one heard about this here before until they signed it,
Exactly.
And we said, well, okay, where you're coming to the parliament for $306 million to pay this company. Who is this company? Who are the persons, the beneficiaries? Who are the owners?
The principals.
The principals and those things like that. Nothing at all they wanted to provide. We asked them, let us see the deal you signed with Hess. Because Hess is part of the oil block.
Yes.
They said, that they made a statement and it's in the public domain. I had asked them, they signed another contract with Exxon for the gas to shore project. They refused to provide that. There's a report by a lady named Alison Redford, who they brought from Canada, who did a report on the environmental permits. They refused to provide that. And it's surprising. And let me tell you what, all the persons that previously would have been on Facebook and on the radio and on talk shows and the Guardians of Democracy, the so-called persons who are open for transparency. I mean, same except say Article 13 and Transparency International. They're all silent now.
Yes.
While we were there every single day, there would be pickets, there would be talk show hosts, there would be editorials and those things like that. about provision of information. They're all silent now. So it seems to me that you know, I mean, what's good for the goose is definitely not good for the
Not
gander
for the gander.
when it comes to transparency and accountability with the PPP. You know what I mean? They hide everything. They don't tell everything. They give half answers. You know what I mean? The corruption is ripe in Guyana. And I took a bet. Somebody asked me today how many points you think we would have fallen. We will fall in when the Transparency International comes out next year. I say 4. Because the highest rating, the highest rating, which means the best fight and the best rating the country ever got was under the coalition government. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We rose and we were one of and we were identified in 2020 as one of the rising star top 5 countries fighting corruption in the world. That's the 2020 Transparency International report. 2021 we dropped 2 points. 2020 the next one in 2021 we dropped I think 2 or 3 points. We dropped 4 points, and we go back. While on one hand they're saying that we have the fastest growing economy in the world, we also go back to where we were pre-2015 as one of the most corrupt countries in the Western Hemisphere. You know what I mean? And they have the audacity to talk about our stewardship while it is plain in everyone's face what's going on. I'm sorry that Jermain if he's off there, but Bamia, the school in Bamia, I passed there. You know what I mean? They got footballers building a school. I mean, come on. What's that mean? Guys that are known best for running a football program, and they may be great promoters, but they're building a school for our children in our constituency. You know, and I always say this: if you would like a tailor to perform brain surgery, let him start off on your children, not our children. And that's literally what they're doing. You mean they didn't go to Cotton Tree, they didn't go to WIM, they didn't go to these places. They give the promotion. I mean, a football promoter a contract to build in Bamia. So if anything happens, it's the kids of the coalition that will suffer.
Yes.
If you want somebody to experiment, and if you say that you're expanding it, let them experiment it. If you're so confident that they could do it, go and give them in WIM. Go give them in Babu John. Let them go build a school in Babu John and those things like that. But at least for us, let us put competent contractors in areas where under the coalition. But that's and ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know how the eye pass us. They wouldn't do that, because their supporters would lynch them if they said take the same footballers and football promoters and they go and tell them go and build a secondary school, a primary school in WIM. They would lynch them because they say, yeah, I pass we. But of course now they do it, and they'll say, and I'll say it, we give a black company it because it's a black community. BS. BS. There's so many black contractors who are qualified, who are being denied jobs.
Yes.
Who done that school and done it correctly. But no, you mean, and they try and use this thing, but we have to call a spade a spade. You can't give, and they're giving persons who are not qualified in our communities. And they say no because they're black. But if you want to, fair enough. I don't mind empowerment of black people, but do to your communities too. You go and send these fly-by-night contractors, send them to your community so they could give them the substandard work.
Yes. David, the other interesting thing at Monday's sitting, the Minister of Public Works, I heard him boasting that his ministry was able to accomplish in the construction or repairs of 1,053 roads. 1,053 roads. And again, questions were asked because I think it was the leader of the opposition
Where?
who stood up and said, well, look, on average, it would have been like 25 roads.
No, 100 roads, 153 roads, 1,053 roads, he said.
Yes.
So he said, yes. So he said, and leader of the opposition asked a very simple question. If you divide 10 regions by 1,053,
53,
you're supposed to have at least 100 roads per region if you've been doing this thing equitably.
Exactly.
Right? And he asked them to name the roads. He did in Linden, he waffled, right? He named roads that we did, and Victory Valley Road, we did that. Right. So on us, you know what I mean? And so forth. You mean I think Voller got up and said he did no roads in Figueira, he did no roads in South Georgetown. And we're wondering, and persons have to sit down and really take a stock of what's going on. I know how they're trying to say that they want to local government elections is coming up, and they're trying to say that they're active and those things like that. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. They don't like you. They're using the government's money. They're using the money from the oil deal, the coalition signs, to try and buy you over. Edgel got up and boasted how there's the most money ever in the ministry. Of course, it's the most money ever in the ministry because the country has the most money ever.
Most money now, yes.
Right? But what is he doing with it? Every single day, you know, I mean, I posted a slide by that myself and Nigel Hughes worked on over the last 3 weeks.
Economy and justice.
Yeah, the statistics showing that 87% of the of the contracts goes to Indian contractors, and we should not be ashamed or worried to say call a spade a spade. The facts are there. So they give us a drain to clean for $500,000, but they give new contractors never did anything ever before. They started just like the same promoted guys. The promoter guys statement 8 signed up their company in March. I want a $400 million project in August. Their guys are doing roads that you never and you know that we know all the road contractors, and we did a lot to build them under the ministry. So we have all the information. We know all of them who have the capacity, who don't have the capacity. We had them in tiers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. 87% of the major contract goes to East Indian companies or foreign companies. The majority, I mean, there's about a few Trinidadian owned by Indians as well here, and they don't see it an issue. But what they do is when you raise it, they try to make us feel uncomfortable about speaking about it. They'll attack us and say that we'll be talking race and those things like that. But we should not be. It's a fact. It's blatantly obvious in front of us. You know what I mean? Somebody once responded to me today, said, well, there's no black contractors. Courtney Ben is on his knees. I think he's probably bankrupt right now. I've been looking at my place. I've been looking for guys, there's AA engineering and those guys that were there that did really good work. Not a job. Not one of them. I see Ivor Allen. I mean, there are plenty. You would have thought KP Thomas. I mean, you'd have thought those guys that did work all around the region. Not one of these big jobs they can get. And they've been doing these contracts for the last 10, 15 years. Yeah. But they have the audacity and they try to shame us and say that we're racist when we put a fact in front of them. But the facts are facts. And if they want to disprove us, if they want to shut us up, I mean, they say, show me the money, show me your contract, show me it. Just like how we put out today, who won the contracts, the value of the contracts, how many are of East Indian. I mean, this country, Annette, is big enough for all of us.
Exactly.
The money that we have is enough for every single person. You know, like Americans, I heard them now talking, and Canadians, and everybody start, but inclusivity
Exclusivity.
and transparency in disbursement, because they are well as known and thought that they probably, I mean, we've got buyer's remorse because they supported them in 2020, 2019 because, but then, and they promised, I know thought they went to, they promised the international community that we've changed.
Yes.
The leopard never changes.
Change its stripe.
You, no matter what you do on it, you put a pig in a barn with food, he
You
can't help
can't
himself.
yourself.
He
Exactly.
has to eat, and he eats and eats and eats, even when it's belly full. Right? There's a bag of apples he wouldn't eat, and then his belly full and leave the rest. He bites all the apples so they will spoil. That's exactly what the PVP are.
You know, David, you're absolutely correct, because currently you have a contract being done on both the eastern and western carriageway of Cemetery Road there. Apparently they're doing concrete drains, and also they're erecting some, probably, I don't know what type of fence when it completes. But the sad thing about it though, David, is that when I saw the equipment out there and the label on the equipment, it was a Avinash Contracting Services or construction company. And I said, well, look, I serve in the Ministry of Public Infrastructure. I had preview to the list of contractors. I served for a small, short period of time at the Ministry of Communities, Department of Housing. And I had, I'm familiar with some names, some contracting names. And at both ministries, I have never, ever come across the name Avinash Constructing Company. Where are we going, David? Is it a case whereby we just handpick people and just shove billions of taxpayers' dollars down the throat and say, hey, put them out there to give us substandard work? Because David, when the works are completed, we will have to expend additional monies, because this is the nature of the people. You're giving a man who is a probably what should I say? You can't give a doctor contracting work. You understand? And this is what exactly is happening. So what is your thoughts on this?
Look. You mean that just one? You know what I mean? If you check, the person that has construction companies, I mean, critic
What?
of critic fame. You know what I mean? Critic with a joker face has a construction company, has contracts. You know what I mean? Members in the private sector commission have open construction companies and have contracts, and then they come to say to us in the opposition about we must behave ourselves. If you have any complaints about corruption, we must bring it to them. But they are the facilitators of the contract.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Come on, critic has a big construction company. You know what I mean? So where are we going? And then, you know what I mean? So it's not just that. And what is even more disappointing to me is that they would call a few. I mean, I'm sure it's happening in Linden. I know it's happening in other places. So they look around for someone who they think is an influencer or somebody a black person, and they wouldn't give them a contract. You know what I mean? They would give them some. They say, oh yeah, so here that we will clean a drain, and then on top of cleaning the drain, you must come and smile with me, and you must come and invite me into your community, tell your people to open your doors to me. And all they're doing is using them, and I find myself so disappointed now that these persons in our community. I mean, I understand that things are hard, and I am one for if money is given away, take it, because it's not the PPP's money and those things like that. But do not allow them to disrespect your people. If they want to give you a contract, you take it, but don't invite them in your house. Don't bring them at my door and tell me to come out to meet them. If you want to eat and they're giving away money, they make up, we're not silly. Take the money by yourself, use it because it's not comfortable. If you do it Encourage your friends to come and do it, but don't bring them to my doorstep and tell me that they're doing a good job for the community when they just bring you there and just have you there, and they discard you just as fast as they find you. That is what I'm going to tell. Those are the things that I'm talking about. I mean, everyone knows it's a fact. You know, I mean, you see some of them going and taking photos because all they want to do, they come and they say, Annette, look, we got a little contract here. You know, what I mean, go and paint the fence on St. Winifred's paint St. Winifred's friend, the school fence. And then said, all right, here we go. We have an outreach in Newton Kitty, you know what I mean? Come with us. And they have you there now, like taking out pictures and those things like that, and those things, and then they push a mic in your face. Of course, you want the job. You got 3 or 4 young boys that you want to feed. They got Christmas coming up. You want money. And
Yes.
you're to say, oh, what a good government they are.
Yes.
Stop being used. Stop being stupid. If they ask you to pay in the fence, take the money, pay in the fence, and you go home and you stay home, but you don't bring them into our neighborhoods. Don't bring them into our neighborhoods and tell us that they're doing a good job. They don't like you and they're only using you. They discard you, you know what I mean? If they do something good, you can praise them, right? When they do something wrong, you should also criticize them. You know what I mean? So we have to start thinking and behaving as though that slavery has been abolished.
Yes. Well, thank you. Yes, David. Well, thank you very much, David, because we're already over program time.
Yeah,
and
sorry,
I think this,
Anna.
but that's fine. I think this discussion needs to be continued because that's the only way our people, the ordinary Guyanese, can understand what is really happening and just what is happening beneath the surface, and just don't take things for granted at the top of the surface. So I want to thank you, David, for joining me on Advancing the Cause. I do look forward to more discussions like these, and I also want to thank Jermain for being here, sharing with us, and most importantly to you, the viewers and listeners, because without you, they could not have been advancing the cause. So God richly bless you, and we do look forward to you joining us come next Wednesday.
Thank you very much,
for another program.
Good night to you
Thank
and
you.
your viewers.
Good night. Good. Bye-bye. Good.